Tell me what your life was like before you died.
A couple months ago, I was sitting here and Joan of Arc's head popped up like a balloon, like to my left. Like, I never know who's gonna come through. But when I was a kid, I was terrified. I didn't understand anything I was seeing. And when you're a kid, the only resources you have to make sense of yourself are your parents. And for me, as a child, like I was seeing a very deep red. I actually couldn't see through it. And that's very rare. There's been a handful of events that have happened to me where in my clairvoyance where I can't see through it. Like it is the world I'm in that moment. Even though you would still see me sitting in this chair, I would be looking at something like it's flesh and blood and communicating. And so one of these spiritual presences was this like crimson colored opaque thing, and it followed me all the time as a child, every day. And because of church, I thought this presence was the devil. I had no other way to interpret it. And so started my, I think therapists call it your core wound. So I would go into my parents' room every night crying, telling my father what I was seeing in my bedroom. It's just like a movie theater. When you turn the lights off, it makes everything just all the more visible. And so at night, there'd be a portal at the head of my bed. There would be a being observing me, standing by my bed. I didn't know this at the time, but archangels and angels were just everywhere, diving around, splashing around, going through walls. But I was terrified. And so my dad just told me every night, you're not seeing what you're seeing. You have an overactive imagination. Go to bed. My parents didn't believe me, and the devil was following me. I knew I had hid my clairvoyance. I knew to stop talking about it and pretend as if it wasn't true. By kindergarten, I knew. It was very obvious. And also because of the reactions I got and because of how I interpreted those reactions, I hated myself by kindergarten. I was like, something is deeply wrong, something's broken. And because of the devil presence, I thought, and somehow I'm bad. And I found out later that was Archangel Michael. He was presenting as the traditional root chakra color. We have certain energy, I would say portals. They're actually portals, like of the classic 7 chakras. We have so many chakras. So Archangel Michael actually really loves taking care of and watching over extrasensory children. So that was Archangel Michael. But the feeling of hating myself and knowing I was weird and bad continued, and it kind of calcified into I'm not lovable. And I truly felt that way. I felt I had no worth. And I married a man who I knew didn't even like me. I knew he not even but I was so down. My self-worth was so damaged by that point. I was like, if I don't marry him, no other man will ever have me, and I'll be alone again. And if you look at the facts of my life, they are pretty lonely. And I think a lot of people like me have a difficult time. So the divorce happened and my body followed my mind. I crashed, and chronic Lyme disease just raged out of remission. And I was incredibly sick. I had a walker with tennis balls on it. I had a port in my arm and a fanny pack, and I was doing 2 balls of antibiotics into that port a day. My hand and foot, my right hand and foot were paralyzed. I was in excruciating. It hurt so much. My friends kept telling me, you're about to die. And I was like, I'm not. But the one night I knew I was, and I was so happy. I would leave peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on the floor for my kids and then go back to the couch. I would make them laying down on the floor because like I would have to like army crawl. And one night I was like, oh my God, I am gonna die. It is tonight. And I was so quiet and I just laid there and my kids were with their dad. And I just wanted my friends to leave, but they wouldn't. And I felt elated. And so I started crawling upstairs to my room, and my guides, I felt like they hit me with a spitball. That's literally what it felt like. And I was like, oh my God, what? And they were like, you have one more chance. You have to get out of your body tonight. And they didn't say anything else, but I was like, oh, okay. Because honestly, I wanted the thought of my kids being like raised by their father alone without my influence. I know that I signed up to help guide these children. They need the balance of our personalities or they're really going to suffer. So they gave me another chance. They didn't say anything. I climbed the rest of the stairs thinking, okay, I'll try it, but I don't know how to astral travel on command. I've been astral traveling my whole life. It was fun. I felt safe and I was like, I loved it. When I was like climbing up into my bed, because I was like, you gotta tell me, I don't know how, but I'll do it, I'll try. They told me how to do it. They told me exactly what to do to astral travel on command when I died. I laid along the edge of the bed. That's what they said to do. Lay literally on the edge. And there's a tipping point when we're trying to sleep. It's like right in the middle. And in that moment, they told me to roll off the bed. And that's what I did. Then, like, well, I'm just gonna be sitting here like, okay, I'm still gonna die. But my higher self, I'm Susan Dyer, but 99% of us is anchored in dimensions that we can't even see or feel. And you cannot be disconnected because we're one. And so even if you feel like I'm alone, I'm not getting any messages, I don't know what to do, just remember you're always connected. It's just your emotions, just emotions, it's never fact. So when I rolled out of my bed, and this is weird, it made me understand all those portals that would show up by my head when I was little. And they're different colored portals, and they scared the hell out of me. I didn't realize I was making them to go places. I thought weird creatures were gonna come in through them. When I got out of my body, there was the portal. This is like black, gray. This is a black gray portal. It looks like shit. Like it looked like a tunnel actually. When I would do the portals, they would just look like a circle in the wall that you could go through. But this one looked like a pipe and it was like charcoal gray and black. And I was like, that looks terrible. I don't want to go in that. Where's that thing gonna take me? It looks like it's like from a freaking horror show. So it was going so fast. I had no idea what it was or where it was going, but I obviously know, okay, I'm supposed to go into this charcoal thing. And I had to like kind of angle. I had to angle my astral body into this tube or whatever. And so I did. No music, no light. I'm like, this is not cool. And then boom, I was in a place called, a lot of people call it the void. And at that point, my biggest fear in life was the dark because of all the things I've seen. And so to end up in the void, which is like black, wet velvet, no sound, no noise, no other beings, and eternal, infinite, that void is essentially like God, if you want to call that energy God. That void is the feminine, receptive womb aspect of God energy. And you could kind of consider that space like the next canvas God's going to paint. It literally is like the womb space. So just said, I closed my astral eyes. There's no time in other dimensions. And then I was in the masculine energy of God, which presented like blazing rays of light. I thought God was really vague before. Like God is the energy that makes things, and that's incorrect. My experience showed that God knew me better than my best friend. We had this exchange without speaking, just by thought. I realized when I was like kind of like a tea bag floating like in those rays and having this exchange with God, I realized, and this is gonna maybe sound weird, but it's okay. I realized that I was God. I realized like I'm not God's child. Jesus wasn't God's son. I realized it was like I was a two-pronged plug plugging into the outlet. There's no punishment. Like you don't pass and then God is like judging like what you did. God is like a radio station with one song. Just love, freedom, unconditional. God's just God. There's no reaction, but at the same time, because we are God, God knows us inside and out. If we do something, it's our reaction. It's our decision if we look back at how we spent our life. I was with God, and first thing God asked, he was like, you know, do you want to stay? Like meaning with me, like, do you want to stay or do you want to go back home? And so right away, I manifested a huge, like IMAX sized photo of my two boys. And I was like, I want to stay. And I wanted to like really show God that I meant it. And so I started pulling on my silver cord. We have so many energy lines through us. We do have an etheric cord. And so I just started going hand over hand. And I was thinking, oh my God, where am I? Like, how long is this gonna take? If I actually like just keep doing this, like this could be like years. I don't know, like where, you know, but anyway, God believed me. And we had all of this, nothing was spoken. And I promised God the word I said, or thought I said, I promise I will live transparently. I knew intuitively that transparency was to the end of helping other women. And when I woke up, I sat up and it was light out. I looked at my cane and I knew immediately that I was never going to need it again. And I just hopped out of bed on both feet without any hesitance. And it was pretty shocking for everybody, obviously. And my hematologist was really taken off guard. I was about to begin having my blood be chelated because there was so much iron in it. It's called hemochromatosis. It was like one of the many things that was going on. And I was feeling a little bit sassy that day. So I told him, I was like, well, if you really want to know, I had a near-death experience and I'm healed with Jesus and now I'm fine. So that's what I do now with that transparency. I talk about everything absolutely truthfully, and I still feel so like, what's gonna happen? I mean, because I know how it sounds, but I'm well educated, I'm very cultured, I've been around the world. 2 years later, when I was talking to Jesus and I was channeling him, he said, Susan, you need to realize I did nothing. You healed yourself. He said, I was there for the ride. I was there as a best friend or a teddy bear, but we needed to get you up and out of the fray of this dimension so that you could remember who and what you really are. And then healing myself in that remembrance would be not a problem at all.